Baseball fans, it is time once again for another episode of Planes, Trains, Buses, and Ballparks. With over 50 years in professional baseball and making a multitude of fantastic relationships along the way, Frank Coppenbarger shares great stories with weekly guests from various areas inside of the game. It's all here on the Fans First Sports Network. Let's get ready to play ball. Here's Frank Coppenbarger.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Planes, Trains, Buses, and Ballparks. It's so exciting to have you back for another show, and I think we've got a really good one cooked up for today. Hopefully you're going to like it. I'm going to start off by saying this. We're right in the middle of the postseason in Major League Baseball, and everybody is vying to get to the World Series and hopefully ultimately win the World Championship. Well, the gentleman that is my guest today, his World Series is already over. It's been over for about a month. And that guy is Mr. Ron Frick. Ron, welcome to Planes, Trains, Buses, and Ballparks.
Frank, thanks for the invitation. Yeah, the World Series is behind us now, and we're ready to watch the big guys play.
So I'm going to speak about what we mean by the World Series behind us. By day, Ron is the president and CEO of the United Way of North Central Pennsylvania. Now, you sports fans are probably wondering, well, why would he be on a sports show? Well, here's the reason. For the last 25 years, Ron has volunteered at the Little League World Series in his hometown of Williamsport, Pennsylvania. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to find out all the stuff I know I always wanted to know, and I think a lot of you have always been curious about too, what it's like for a team to be actually at the Little League World Series. So here's the kicker on this one. Most of my guests are going to be guys that I've worked with over the years, players, coaches, managers, front office people. And they're all friends of mine. They're guys I've known, relationships I've made. This one's a little bit different. My wife, Kathy, and Ron went to college together at Lycoming College in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, just a couple of years ago. And they were college classmates. And Kathy made me aware of Ron and what he does there at the Little League World Series. And I said to her, I think this could make a great show. So, Ron, really glad to have you, and I got a lot of stuff to ask.
Fire away, buddy. Ready to go.
No problem. So anyway, 2 weeks every year, the Little League Baseball World Series kind of captures the world coming from Williamsport. It's home for all these years. And I want to ask you, you were 3 years as a volunteer usher, and then you became what was known then as an uncle, a team uncle. Of course, as time goes on, there are a couple women that got involved and some girls playing. So you had uncles and aunts. They decided to streamline that title and came up with the title of team host. So for the last 22 years, your role has been as a team host. Tell me about that, how you got into it.
Yeah, so it's a great story. I had a friend of mine, Fred Plankenhorn, who was a team host for many, many years. I think when he finally retired, he was probably more than 45 years as a team host. And he was a neighbor of mine. And as I was ushering, he said, why don't you consider being a team host? And my kids, used to go up to Uncle Fred's house, and we'll probably talk a little bit about Little League trading pins, but Uncle Fred had trading pins as a team host or an uncle. And so my kids would trudge up to Uncle Fred's house every year right before the World Series, and he'd give him a pin and he'd pat him on the head and say, tell your dad he should be a team host someday. And that went on for a couple of years. And then finally I said, I'm going to put my name in the hat and do it. So I did that probably sometime in 2002 and started with my first team in 2003.
So now there's a process, I understand, on how you are assigned a team. First of all, you don't work alone, correct? Don't you have a partner that helps you?
Yep, that is correct. There's usually at least two people assigned to each team, and we select those teams in kind of a unique way.
Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, actually, no. I thought I had it. I guess I don't have it. I do have a ball from the team I had this year, but this is not the ball that we pick.
Okay.
Actually, Little League there's 20 teams that participate in the Little League World Series, and each team comes from a region. Each region has a ball with its name on it, and that ball is in a bucket. And then we all pick, usually by seniority, based on the length of service of both team hosts. And we pick the ball, and it's totally random. So you could get the mountain region, which I was fortunate enough to get this year, or you could get a team from Europe, Africa. Last year, I had a team that represented Europe, Africa from the Czech Republic. So it's really random. I've been doing it obviously for many, many years, and I've had both American, U.S. teams and also some of the international teams.
Well, the team you had this year was in the thick of it, almost all the way to the end, weren't they?
Yeah, I sported my mountain team host hat this year. Yeah, they were the U.S. champions this year. A team just outside of Las Vegas, the Summerlin South Little League. Great group of kids and parents. Coaches were terrific to work with, and they made it all the way to the U.S. championship, and then got beat by our friends from Chinese Taipei.
Okay, all right. So, have you ever had a team that's won it all?
Yeah, actually, I did. Been in the championship game a few times. Obviously, this year was one of those. But I did have a team back in 2008 from Waipio, Hawaii, small little town outside bigger towns in Hawaii. But anyway, those kids came. They had been Hawaii started to really bring teams to the Little League World Series back in, I think, 2005, and they really have become quite the powerhouse in the Western region. So I was lucky enough to have those guys in August of 2008. And then my favorite team won the World Series a few months later.
The Philadelphia Phillies. 2008 was a good year.
Yeah, it was a great year. In fact, my oldest son played high school ball, and I know Frank has some connection with high school coaching. And my son Matt won the state championship in June. I had a Little League team win in August, and then turned around and had a team from Philadelphia win it all in November.
Oh, that's awesome. That's terrific. Well, Hawaii, Shane Victorino, who was one of the key members of the 2008 Phillies World Championship team, later won another one with the Red Sox. He had a great year in 2008. The Hawaii team wins the World Series, and this year with your Mountain West team, Shane lives in Las Vegas now, primarily. Didn't he coach a couple of the kids you had this year a little bit?
Yeah, he has. I think he has a baseball camp that he also does out there. So a number of kids knew him. One of the kids had a really pretty close relationship with him. So the nice thing about that with the major leaguers is those guys usually take the opportunity to call. So I know Shane. I know Shane called in and talked to the Mountain boys this year, and I know had a conversation with the Hawaii team, back in 2008. So it's kind of fun, especially as a Phillies fan, to get another chance to talk to somebody that you've kind of followed over the years.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I know his team is called the Flying Hawaiians, and that was his nickname, and that's a pretty good name for a youth league baseball team too.
Yep, absolutely.
So let's just take it right from the start. So now you've selected your team. You have the get together where the team hosts are there. You draw the baseball out of the bucket or a ball out of the bucket with a team name. So now it's time for the Little League World Series to start. Tell us about it. How do you greet the team when they arrive in Williamsport? Do they fly into Williamsport? Do they bus in there? How does it work?
It's kind of interesting. The title of your podcast really is the way that a lot of teams get here to Williamsport. All kinds of ways, right? Some of them start in planes, and some of them, almost all of them, end up in buses. So, it depends on the team. This year, the Western region teams have a charter flight that flies out of California and comes directly into the Williamsport airport, which is which is very convenient. Most of the teams fly into larger airports, Newark, LaGuardia, those kinds of airports, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and then they bus them directly from the airport here to Williamsport. So we meet them literally the minute they get off the bus. There's a really strong medical team here. The kids get their temperatures checked and make sure that they're feeling good before they get off the bus. And then they get off the bus, and the first people they meet are the team hosts. So we literally get to congratulate them on being selected as the representatives of the particular region that they're coming from, and they get off the bus and we take them into the International Grove, which is a completely secure area, and then the process really gets crazy.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Tell us what happens.
Yeah, so most kids want to see Lamade Stadium, which is the stadium where all of the United States teams play, and then the championship games in championship weekend are all played at Howard J. Lamade Stadium, which has been around from the very beginning. There are two stadiums here in South Williamsport. One is called Lamade, and the other one is Volunteer, which is where all the international teams play. So the first thing the kids usually want to do is walk across the secure area, go to the other fence, and see the stadium. It's really cool when they come at night because it's all lit up. So it's a pretty impressive sight. That's usually the first thing they do, and then they're all assigned to a dorm space. So each team has their own separate dorm. There are 20 spaces, enough room for 13 or 14 kids and a couple of coaches. Each team is assigned to a quad of dorms, and each United States team is paired up and shares a bathroom and space with an international team. So, for example, Yep. So this year, the mountain team who I had shared space with Canada. The team upstairs from us was Australia, and they shared space with the region from the Great Lakes. So it's really a great opportunity. There's tables and picnic tables and things for the kids to sit outside and trade pins and have conversations, and it's really a cool environment for the kids. So after they get assigned, we take them to the dorm. We show them. Someone comes in from Little League and explains some of the rules and how to behave in a dorm when you're with your friends for a couple of weeks.
Let me stop you 1 second. So a dorm, is it a room with like a few beds, or is it a room with enough beds for every kid on the team?
Every kid on the team. So
they're in one very large room.
Yep.
Almost like a barracks type situation.
Yep, exactly. So imagine all your 12-year-olds in one space.
How about that? Well, that's definitely good for team bonding, no doubt about it.
Yep.
And do the coaches stay with them?
Yes. Yeah. So each dorm has two spaces. The manager usually has a room with a shower and a couple of beds, and the two coaches, usually two coaches, sometimes three. But they have another separate room away from the kids, fortunately. But it's pretty tough to sleep when you're in the midst of all the excitement over here.
Oh, I would think that there's not much sleeping going on. So now I know there's been a few girls play over the years. How do they handle that?
Yeah, so the girls usually stay off campus. Little League has a couple of homes that they own just off the secure area of the complex. And so they come in the morning, they take showers and things off complex with a parent usually. Sometimes in the past we've had, team hosts that were female that would, take care of the girls. They bring them into the complex. They work out with the guys all day long and have meals and all the other things. So they're with the team all day long. And then at the end of the day, when everybody's ready to go to bed, they go to the house and sleep.
Go back. Okay. So now one of the first big events is a parade through downtown Williamsport. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we have a major parade. There's probably, we've been guessing over the years, but we think there's probably close to 40,000 people that come to this parade, and that's more than the city of Williamsport proper. So it's a big event. It includes parents and community leaders. We've had Major League ball players that are, grand marshals of the parade over the years. The kids are each on a float, so they have their own float with the coaches and the team hosts, and it's a wild ride. It's a couple of miles down West 4th Street, right in the middle of town. And the parents love it. The kids love it. It really brings the community together. And that's really the official kind of kickoff for the community, which has had, obviously a symbiotic relationship with with Little League for, decades.
I noticed when I was up there a couple times, they had painted the Little League Baseball logo in the main intersection of town. That was a really cool idea. And I think there's a couple statues around there, isn't there?
Yeah, so there's an interesting statues. They started, I think, probably goes back to 2013 or 14. So it's been at least 10 years. And so there's a logo in the middle of at the corner of West 3rd Street and Market Street, which is the bridge that goes over into South Williamsport over the Susquehanna River. And there's actually bases that are also on each of the corners. And so there's a home plate with an umpire and a player, a batter, catcher, and then first, second, and third base, bronze statues in each of those locations. And then it's kind of expanded over the years. So the most recent addition are three people that are kind of standing on a rail. George W. Bush, Jackie Robinson, and I'm going to forget the last one. I want to say Babe Ruth, but I don't think that's who it is. And then they have outfielders and other players that are in different parts of the community. So it's kind of a scavenger hunt. You go all over the community. The minor league draft league ballpark that we have here in Williamsport, they have a couple of statues out there where Little League baseball actually started on the Williamsport side of the river.
Williamsport has Bowman Field, one of the oldest ballparks in the United States, and actually the home field of the now annual Little League Classic. Major League Baseball sends two teams to play there and play a real game there on Bowman Field during the Little League World Series. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But let's go back now. The parade's over. We're heading back to the International Grove, as you say it's called. And let's talk about the food. Well, tell me all about the dining room, what it looks like, how the food is, what kind of food they have, because I know those kids eat a lot.
Oh yeah, and I would say it's some of the best meals that kids or adults are going to have. I always make sure that I've lost a few pounds before I start, because by the time I get done, I put them back on. And so breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast starts at 7:30 in the morning. There are actually 2 or 3 different shifts, because now with 20 teams, it's obviously impossible to get all 20 teams in the cafeteria at the same time. So breakfasts are scheduled every day. The team hosts and the managers and coaches get a schedule which tells them exactly what their day is going to look like, starting with breakfast and ending with with dinner. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There are snacks that the kids can take when they want to practice. We get them water and ice and cups and things like that for practices and for games. And then we're basically charged with making sure that the team gets to the places that they need to get to on time when they need to get there. So everything from ESPN to arriving for the parade to getting ready to go to a game, all of that is the responsibility of the team hosts in working closely with the manager and coaches.
So I'm assuming you took buses to the parade for the kids.
Yeah.
Or is it just their team, or is it several teams on a bus?
Yeah, so 2 teams on a bus, and again, they always try to match up, a United States team with an international team. So I think we probably went with Panama. I think this year it's usually the 2 teams that are gonna be right next to each other on the floats. The other thing that happens, right before the parade is there's a really nice picnic that the local Pennsylvania College of Technology has been throwing for, I don't know, many, many years now, which is really kind of toward the beginning of the parade route. So the kids get bused to the parade, they have dinner. The major league ball player that's going to be the grand marshal, one of my favorite guys a couple of years ago, Ryan Sandberg, was here. The late Ryan Sandberg was the speaker. I know I sent Frank some pictures with Ryan. He speaks to the kids, talks about the value of the Little League program and how, a lot of those guys grow up to be major league ball players. Talks about, the kinds of things the kids need to hear these days, right? Sportsmanship and how to get along and, how to work hard, play the game the way it's supposed to be played. And so it's really a cool experience. And they get back on the buses and they go to the beginning of the parade route, hop on the floats, and off they go.
I can just picture Rhino there giving the talk to the kids, and and talking to all of them and taking pictures. And, they couldn't have had a better representative, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So now you're back there. You started to tell me a little bit about the dining room. What kind of food do they have?
You name it. I mean, everything for a kid. You're right. Lots of chicken fingers. There's a really
Right,
nice
a lot
salad
of
bar.
burgers and all that stuff, huh?
Yep. Burgers. There's, sponsors sometimes provide some of that stuff. We've had, but the
What about the
interesting thing,
international teams? I'm sure they
tacos.
like all the burgers and fries, but do you have some of their country's cuisine also?
Sure. Yep. Tacos. We have Asian stir fry, that kind of thing. I mean, a lot of the kids, some of the Asian kids bring rice and things into the cafeteria, and the group that runs the kitchen service is really pretty terrific. In fact, it's the same group that runs the picnic for the kids. It's the Pennsylvania College of Technology. It has a culinary program that's kind of world famous now. They've done a lot of big events, and they're responsible for feeding the kids for the whole 2 weeks that they're there.
Oh, that's so cool, man! What an operation! People have no idea. How many volunteers would you say work at the Little League World Series? Just everything: ushers, parking lot, groundskeepers, concession people. Hundreds, right?
Hundred. Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are probably I think there are 47 or 48 team hosts. I don't know how many ushers in so many different shifts. Some folks will work the full day. Some folks just work on the weekends or at night, depending on when they can get away. Security is unbelievable. Volunteers and paid security staff that are on campus. And then, there's shuttle drivers to help folks that are, struggling to get. It's a lot of hills. You get in really good shape, but not everybody can do that. So lots of drivers with golf carts and things like that. And then really a really solid relationship with the local River Valley Transit Authority. All of the transportation needs for the complex, back and forth to parades and practices and trips and all that stuff is kind of coordinated through the local transit authority.
Well, my life in the game was primarily logistics, so this is also interesting to me. And I want to talk to you. You mentioned the word hill, so I got to bring up the famous hill. But let's take a break here, and we'll be back with Ron Frick and more about the Little League World Series in just a minute. All right, we're back with Ron Frick, and he's taking us all through the Little League World Series, what happens on a daily basis at the complex in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And Ron, the next thing I want to ask you about is we notice now, it used to be back when I was a kid, and it was the biggest Saturday of the year on the ABC Wide World of Sports, they would show the championship game of the Little League World Series. And of course, any kid that played baseball, that was their dream to be in that. And of course, most of us never made that. But there's always a few that do. And I can still remember watching those games in black and white TV with Jim McKay doing the announcing, 60 years ago. But I noticed, the teams wear a different uniform when they get to the Little League World Series, and explain all that. And tell how they get it, and where all this is taken care of.
Yeah, so when they get there, it's become very efficient. Adidas is the official sponsor of the uniform, and so before the teams even get there, they have sizes and they've kind of assigned numbers, and it's quite the production. I mean, there's a really nice locker room. The kids go and they hear about the cleats that are designed specifically for the Little League World Series, and the uniforms and sweatshirts, and you can see the logo. The hat that I'm wearing is a New Era hat. So New Era is the sponsor. They help out on the caps that go with the uniforms. But the kids all get fitted with their uniform by Adidas. We fit them with pants and undergarments that are all provided by Adidas. And so that's a really big part of the excitement of getting a brand new uniform. They all have to remember a new number.
Do they get to select their number?
Not anymore. It's because it's based on size. There's usually numbers 1 to 20 or 25. If
Yeah.
you're a bigger guy, you're going to be in the 20s, and if you're a little guy, you're probably going to be 1, 2, or 3. So
Right.
that's kind of how it works. But they're very, very cool uniforms. They get to take the uniforms home now. It used to be they'd recycle them a couple of years, but every year every kid gets a brand new pair of pants and a sleeve and you name it. They're super cool uniforms.
So that's theirs to keep when it's all over.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Keepsake of a lifetime, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Well, what other kind of swag do they take home? I'm guessing they get a lot of stuff there.
Oh yeah. So after after we get the uniforms, and part of that whole uniform process, the reason we do that kind of early in the process is because they also have some responsibilities with ESPN that we'll talk about. But the other thing that they do is Easton, who now owns Rawlings, provides them with all kinds of equipment. So every team gets sort of color coordinated catcher's gear, 2 different size catcher's gear, the entire catcher's gear. They get a sleeve, they get a batting elbow guard now, they get a batting helmet, they each get a glove that they can pick in various colors now.
Wow.
Everything you can imagine that a major league ball player is wearing, and you can see it on TV. They're all getting that stuff, and cleats from Adidas. I mean, it's a fantastic experience. They also get a bat. They get a brand new Easton bat every year.
That's a lot of money in itself. Yeah. So they get to take all that stuff home with them at the end.
Yep, absolutely.
That's terrific. So now let's talk about something else. You mentioned pins before, and a couple of times that I've been to the Little League World Series, I went to the Genetti Hotel with my wife, and we looked around, and there was like an entire ballroom full of pin collectors with these elaborate albums full of thousands of pins. Talk about that briefly, if you would.
Yeah, so pin trading has been a thing for a long time. It's somewhat of a challenge for some of the teams. Obviously, teams don't know they're getting here until very, very near the end of the process, and so it's really hard for a lot of teams to get it. But a lot of the U.S. teams, have parent groups and communities that take care of that. They ship them in, and the kids get them, after they're here a couple of days. But it's a big deal. Here at the United Way, we do a pin every year. A lot of local businesses do pins that people collect and trade. Each of the team hosts, we create a pin every year that's got sort of a team host logo on it. Each of the kids that play in the Little League World Series get a pin from either Uncle Mike or Uncle Ron as a member of the mountain team. And then the pin trading rooms that you're talking about, there's a couple of local hotels that have these pin trading rooms.
Wow.
And the big companies that produce pins, Wilson and DPH and some of the others, they host pin trading rooms, and you can go there till 10 or 11 o'clock at night and with kids and adults and everything else and just trade pins. It's a great thing.
I couldn't believe how many.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's, I think these days pins are going for, you're buying them for $3 to $5 usually. And some of the collections these kids have when they're, I try to trade with kids when I have pins that I've collected over the years with my kids who are, in their 30s now. There's tons of pins on cork boards and things like that. And then a lot of us bring pins to the complex to give to the kids who don't come with pins, so they have something to something to trade with.
So how many pins would you say you have? Thousands?
I don't know about thousands anymore. I've given a lot more away than probably I've collected, but I've got hundreds for sure. And I try to collect ones that meaningful things to me. So I have United Way pins. I have the local health system pins and Uncle Pin. After that, I give a lot more away than I keep.
So when the kids aren't playing, what are they doing?
Wow. There are so many things for kids to do. We used to have a pool on Complex, but we closed the pool down, and now they have this fantastic, I don't even know what to call it. It's kind of a multi-purpose court. It has basketball and soccer and pickleball and tennis, and kids are on it morning, noon, and night. It's amazing. And they do pick up basketball games with each other. It's a really neat thing to do. There's obviously time to trade pins in the complex. The kids can leave the secured part of the complex as long as they're wearing certain things. They've got to have a hat and a credential that every single person has that goes into that international grove that's tied to their particular security clearances. We all get security clearances every year. But they're, and then if the kids if the parents say, look, we'd like to take our son or daughter, or sometimes the coaches want to take the team to Dick's Sporting Goods or whatever, we can sign them out. It's all cleared through Little League, and so we know where everybody is at every single point in time.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure the parents maybe want to have a meal with the kids and the rest of the family, hear all about it, just like we're hearing all about it right now.
Yep.
So now let's talk about the what I talked about earlier, the Major League Baseball Little League Classic, and how does that go over with these young men and young ladies? They must be pretty excited about that.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is always the international teams, right? I had 2 consecutive years where I had the kids from the Czech Republic, right? So they don't see Major League Baseball. They don't. No. We are now fortunate enough to have a game in Great Britain every year, and so some if you happen to be there, you're going to see it. But most of those kids will never get to a Major League Baseball game. So what Major League Baseball has done is brought Major League Baseball to small town, Field of Dreams kind of places, right? And Williamsport is one of those places every year. And the players, the players can remember not only, the times that they played in Little League, but, even in the minor leagues. Our Bowman Field that you mentioned is the second oldest continually operating stadium in the country. And there's been plenty of renovation for this Major League Baseball Classic game. And it's been really a great addition to our community. And many of the players that, folks would know, especially, I know for me, being a Phillies fan, we were a Phillies short A season affiliate here for a number of years. And so guys that I'm watching play baseball now started in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And it's just a great thing.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to talk over you there. It's funny that you should mention that. The first year we played up there in the Little League Classic, meaning the Phillies, we wanted to do something for Doug Estes, the general manager. So we got a home plate with the Little League Classic logo on it. And I took it around the clubhouse and got all the guys that had played for the Williamsport Crosscutters, as they were known, and had them all sign it. And I think there was either 8 or 9 guys out of the 25 that had been part of the Williamsport team at one time or another.
Yeah, what was really fun is that year, and the Phillies have been back a couple of years now, but the first year, it was interesting to watch the players who were coming back, because back when they first were here, we had host families that actually hosted those players, right? So one of the team hosts, Lee Miller, who's a friend of mine, Lee had actually been a team host for a Crosscutters player. So those players were coming back and getting off the plane and going over to the complex to get ready for the game. And they're there's hugs and handshakes and all kinds of things going on, because they're reconnecting with people that they lived with here in Williamsport while they were players on the Williamsport Crosscutters. Pretty cool.
Well, I think I need to tell this story because it's exactly what you're talking about. My wife, Kathy, her college roommate, Jody Puller, who was known as Jody Stuck back in college, her mother and father had ball players for years, and she still is a host for the Collegiate League, draft league team you have.
Yep.
But the last time the Phillies played there, Mrs. Stuck had Sir Anthony Dominguez, Phillies pitcher now with Toronto. He was with the Orioles, then went to Toronto. He was there. I made sure they got to say hello to each other, and he did more than say hello. He came up in the stands in his uniform to visit with her, which I thought was just terrific.
Absolutely true story. I remember watching that happen. I mean,
yeah.
And that's the kind of thing. I mean, those kids, all of the teams, all 20 teams are, in the first couple of rows of the stadium. They're right up against the fence. Players are passing, baseballs and batting gloves and all kinds of stuff to these kids and signing autographs. And, it's the only time in a Major League Baseball game that I've seen, and I'm almost 65 years old now, where both teams from after the game is over go and shake hands.
Well, that's
and
all for Little League, I guarantee you.
yeah,
Because
it's
I've never
amazing.
seen it anywhere else
No,
either.
nope, it's the only place that it happens, and
Right.
it's just a really cool thing to watch. And
Yeah.
Major League Baseball does a great job with the production of the event, and it's just a fabulous edition. It's really the first Sunday, and I my experience with that has been even more exciting because I've gotten a chance to ride, on the players on the bus after the team comes in on a plane into Williamsport Airport. Buses, the local transit authority takes the teams. Each of the teams get invited to go out to the airport. So it's usually an international team and a U.S. team. And so on our buses, it was the Czech Republic and a bunch of kids from the Great Lakes. So the players, I was telling Frank the story. Kyle Schwarber got a chance. He's from the Midwest. Got a chance to interact with some of the kids from I think from Michigan that year because he's from the Midwest, right? So he's sitting in a bus seat with a little league player talking about what it's like to play baseball. And it's just a fantastic environment to be in. It's just a thrill to watch.
So some of those players ride on the local bus with the Little League kids, and some of the Little League kids get to go ride on the Major League team bus, which is really terrific idea.
Yep. And then they all come back to the complex. There's usually a game going on. So, when the Phils were here, the Pennsylvania team from media was playing, and Bryce and all these guys from the Philadelphia Phillies walked into the stadium, stood behind the parents, rooting for their kids, and it was bedlam. I mean, you talk about bedlam at the bank. It was bedlam in Lamity Stadium that day because it was just a fantastic thing to watch. Because we were rooting for the home team, right? They were our Pennsylvania kids. And so the Phils went over and rooted for them with the parents. It was pretty neat.
So speaking of home teams, I will talk about this lady if I can. She's no longer a girl, that's for sure, but she is a very accomplished young woman, and that's Monet Davis. I read where there have been 18 girls that have played in the Little League World Series, but she by far and away is the most famous one. She pitched a shutout, which is the first girl to ever do that in the Little League World Series. And she became really a celebrity. In fact, the first time the Phillies went as a team to play in the Little League Classic, she was a correspondent there. And she flew on the Phillies plane to Williamsport that time. And she actually conducted interviews at the Little League World Series on just the sort of things we're talking about, like what is happening, what's going on. And she herself could, of course, tell her own story. But talk about Monet and the Taney Dragons, as they were known, the team from Philadelphia. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I had a really interesting experience with Monet. I was not her team host that year. We had actually 3 team hosts assigned to the team that year, just because there's a lot of media obviously interested in Monet's story. And so, it was a little overwhelming for Monet, but I will tell you this, that as an individual, as a person, as a young woman at, 12 or 13 years old, she was a fantastic representative, not only of her Little League team and her community, but, the entire city of Philadelphia and state of Pennsylvania. And I spent a little bit of time with her. We traded pins one night. And the next morning, actually, she had been on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Lots of team hosts and folks were anxious to get Monet's autograph on a cover of a Sports Illustrated article. So I was telling Frank, a friend of mine gave me 2 Sports Illustrated copies. He said, "Could you get her to sign it?" So I walked into the office where the team hosts meet every morning, and I said, "Do you mind signing a copy of a Sports Illustrated for me?" So she signed 2 different copies. One she signed kind of next to her face, and the other one she signed on the black strip at the bottom of the Sports Illustrated where you couldn't see it. It was red ink on black. You couldn't see the thing at all. And so she's so apologetic. She goes, "Oh, Ron, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Can I get another one for you and sign?" I said, "Listen, no, I don't want you to do that." And I said, "I'm going to tell you why. Because the entire week I have watched you be the most unselfish player. All of the attention is on you. You're a woman. You're pitching. You're shutout baseball, all this stuff. And the only thing you're thinking about is your catcher, your teammates, all of your coaches, and the way that you all came together as a team. And I said, I'm okay knowing that you signed my Sports Illustrated, even if I can't see it, because I had the experience of being around her. And she's a terrific adult. She's grown into a really cool adult. She still comes back and does some work for ESPN, and kind of gets behind the scenes, which is awesome.
Well, it's really cool, and I got a chance to meet her. Actually, the Taney Dragons, as they were known, the Philadelphia team back that year that she played on at the Little League World Series. They did not win the World Series, but nonetheless, David Montgomery, who was our chairman and president at that time, he wanted to have a celebration and welcome them home, and we had a huge crowd at Citizens Bank Park prior to a game. They were brought out on the field, and I should back up and say that while the Little League World Series was going on and they still were playing games in Williamsport, there was a Taney Dragons jersey hanging in the Phillies dugout every night. So big support from the Philadelphia side. Everybody was proud of all the folks on that team, all the kids. Monet later on had a television commercial, Chevy, I believe it was. She played for the Globetrotters in a game. She appeared in the NBA All-Star basketball game, celebrity game, and she's now making a move to try to play in the new Women's Professional Baseball League that's going to start up in the spring. So anyway, she's still at it, and probably will be a big star there too.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. It really is, and I think only can something like that, because of coverage, really. I mean, a lot of people got to see Monet pitch that typically wouldn't get to see that kind of history being made, and I just think the way that the major league ball players and the teams handle things like that. I mean, our team, I'm still getting text messages and videos and things from, they went back to Las Vegas, and the Golden Knights and the Raiders and everybody's inviting them to a basketball game and a football game, and
right.
It'll go on for a year or more. I remember we had a local team in the World Series here from just west of us in Lock Haven, and they didn't make it very far. They didn't make it to the championship game, but I'll tell you what, for about a year after, they were still going to chamber dinners and all kinds of things.
So I bet that 2 weeks actually goes by pretty quickly. And then how is it when it's time to say goodbye? A little emotional? What's it like?
Yeah, no, it is very emotional. When you spend that much time with kids that aren't your own, and I had 12-year-old, 10-year-old. My kids are 2 years apart, so I coached Little League. I've watched these kids. I know a lot of us will never ever get to play on that field, and so you kind of live vicariously through these kids, and you're doing it for 2 full weeks. You get all kinds of questions. I mean, I've had questions on where to get a good cup of coffee, to where's the best restaurants, to you name it. You are the eyes and ears for the parents too, while their kids are locked up in the International Grove, and it's a very tight schedule. They don't get a lot of time to spend and be a family. And the real unsung heroes, I think, of all of it are the coaches and the managers. I mean, these guys and women that coach and manage these teams, I mean, they're with these kids all year long. I mean, especially if you're in a warmer area, these kids have been playing baseball for a long time together. And I think by the time they get done the second week in August, they're either all ready to go back to their jobs or, whatever.
And hopefully they still have the job.
Yeah, right.
That's
right.
taking
Some of them,
a lot of time off of work.
Some of them don't. Some of them get challenged, by their employers. But, and then you have to get all that done, and then you go do all the parades and the basketball games and all that stuff. I mean, it's a grind. But I'll tell you what, it's an experience like no other. I mean, no one would ever say they didn't want to do it again.
Well, I tell you what, I sure appreciate you taking the time today to fill us in. These are so many things I was always curious about. I think our listeners and viewers will also find this very interesting, and I sure appreciate you being on with us today, Ron. Thank you so much.
Frank, thank you for doing it too. I think this is an awesome way of exposing people to baseball things, to history and experiences that they wouldn't get a chance to do otherwise. And I would say to anybody who really has not experienced the World Series, come up and see it. It's free admission. You can sit on the nice big hill where the kids slide, or you can sit in the stadium. You can come up and enjoy, a couple games a day early in the week, and it's just a great experience. And hopefully some of your listeners will take advantage of that.
One last question. Have you ever slid down the hill yourself?
No. But my grandkids have. Yeah. It's the Major League ball players that have too.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
You get going. It's dry. It's pretty quick.
I love it. I'm sure they got to throw a lot of grass seed on there this time of year to get it ready for next year's World Series.
Yeah, it always comes back. I tell you, the ground crew that keeps up the complex in those fields is really unbelievable. And a lot of those guys are volunteers too. So. Yeah.
Well, Ron, thanks again for all of this and the great background information and for all your hard work over the years. And it's really been a joy to talk to you. And one last thing. Everyone, please like, follow, and subscribe to the Fans First Sports Network and Planes, Trains, Buses, and Ballparks. That's it for this week. We'll be back next week with another exciting guest.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Planes, Trains, Buses, and Ballparks with Frank Coppenbarger. Tune in next week for another great episode on the Fans First Sports Network.